What is up, everybody? Hope you're having a great holiday. Happy July 4th, a day before the holiday. We got a big, massive game. We got a Tráfico at the Rose Bowl. I'm excited for it, man. These two teams, making history. First time I think they play outside of their respective stadiums. It's going to be a big one. It's a holiday, probably the biggest holiday here in America. You have two of the biggest clubs in MLS going at it on MLS on Apple TV. We got Justin Ruderman. Justin, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Great intro. Excited for this big game, as big as it gets in MLS, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Lots of things. I've seen like the stadium's almost sold out. A lot of I know I got a lot of family members are coming in. A lot of people. I've been at the beach. Been going to the beach. Been seeing the atmosphere. And I'm excited to have some fireworks at the Rose Bowl Stadium. I think this is the first time I think I've seen I'm gonna see fireworks at a stadium because I'm usually at the beach or something during July 4th. But yeah, man, how you enjoying this holiday weekend?
Yeah, man. It's been good, enjoyable. I think it's interesting how this is played out. Obviously, now the game has obviously moved from the beginning of the season. Still no Chicharito, but it's going to be a great one, as you say. Looks to be sold out. It's going to break the MLS all-time attendance record per Kevin Baxter, and yeah, the fireworks, all the festivities that come with it. It's just going to be a great festivities, and I can't wait. Hopefully, the game on the field lives up to the festivities off of it. But El Trafico always does, one of the most high scoring matchups in MLS always. So it's fun to watch, and I anticipate it will be once again.
Yeah, this game always tends to live up to the moment, regardless of who's playing. Obviously, seems like both of these clubs are limping in to this game, right? Obviously, Galaxy. We just mentioned Chicharito; he's out for the season. Martin Caceres, he's also out for like 2 to 3 months. LAFC, man. Injuries on injuries. I mean, no season-ending injuries, but it kind of feels like like every week, both of these clubs have different rosters. Obviously, the Gold Cup is coming along as well. So you got a couple U.S. national team players that aren't available for both teams. So just a lot of different things. Very very unique situations on respectively on each club, but both of them are coming into this game. I would say not as confident as you think. I think both of these clubs would like to come into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, Galaxy are, in their worst form that they've potentially ever been, right? 3 wins through 19 games, I think is equal for their worst in club history. So it's just been a bad season all around. They've gotten, a lot of draws recently, actually, just not a lot of wins. LAFC, on the other hand, losing 7 of their last 10, right? So it's been the worst form right now for LAFC that they have experienced since, Sherundler took over, really. So yeah, neither team in good form, but again, we always talk about how form never matters in this game. So it will be interesting to see if these two teams rise to a level or they seem to stoop to each other's level, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully that's not the case because I think we maybe might have seen one bad El Tráfico, or one that I should say that didn't live up to the moment. But you still got Carlos Vela, you still got Ricky Pooch on the other side. And you got players that are hungry, right? That this is a moment to step up. This is a moment, if they want to get a contract extension. These are the games that make you stand out. These are the games that fans and players and everybody remembers you for, right? Everybody remembers these historic games, right? And then classicals, right? Who's going to forget Carlos Vela's goals? Who's going to forget, obviously the Slatan memories, and even Brian Rodriguez, who didn't have, I would say, such a successful career with LAFC, but he had that one memorable goal who broke down the defense. So games like this, can make or break you with the club, and add those dollar signs to your contract, right? And I think and especially being at the Rose Bowl, especially how much draw it's going to get, and all these different things. But Justin, let's get into a little bit about LAFC, and you just mentioned it, Steve Sharondo and LAFC currently being, in their worst form under this coaching team, because they've been, since he took over last season, we haven't really seen much of a hurdle. I would also say, like, a lot of the games that they've played more games than I believe any other MLS team. And I think he mentioned it. I think fatigue is really settling in for this club.
Yeah, no, it really is. And we've seen that since the Champions League final, or really in the Champions League final as well. It happened. And you know, it's just an interesting thing because I always talked about how the team seemed to slow down into that Champions League final rather than ramp up into it, as
Hmm.
far as the players that Steve Cherundolo is choosing to put on the pitch. And it seemed like ever since that happened, there has been a fatigue ever since the team slowed. And, obviously, it's unavoidable. 29 matches thus far is the most in MLS history at this point, due to the CCL run, a couple US Open Cup games, and obviously just the MLS season as well. But it's impossible, and I think that Steve saw this coming, and he's kind of been honest about how he expected to lose games. It's inevitable in this league, and also that LAFC are still second in the Western Conference, so it's not as if the slump has made them fall out of the race in any way in the league. It's just that this is how the MLS works, and we kind of got conditioned almost in the beginning of the season to think, well, can LAFC actually overcome this and break that code for the MLS where they actually can compete in multiple competitions and continue to win? I think that it has proven that the roster rules and the restrictions that are placed upon MLS teams make it impossible to do so.
Yeah, no, it's very tough for a club that like LAFC that the amount of games that they've played right outside of the MLS schedule, and like it's just week in and week out, right? They have had the Open Cup, they had the Champions League, they went all the way to the final of the Champions League. They lost, right? And then the next Wednesday they had to play against Atlanta. Obviously, they didn't get a positive result on that end, and they come into this game with back to back losses, which obviously you lose to FC Dallas, and then you lose to Vancouver at home, which is a little bit complicated. But like what you just said, with all that said, they're second in the West. They played 19 matches in the league. They've won 9 games, drawn 5, and lost 5 with 32 points. And to be second in the West is not a bad thing. And I think this is the stretch that you got to go through as a MLS club, because if they can get over this stretch and still this slump or whatever, and then later down the season, these little hurdles that they're going through is only going to help them later down the line once they get back in the rhythm, because I feel like a club this talented is not going to stay in the slump, right? It's back and forth, up and down, and it's just the amount of games. And I think with all that being said, you know I it's not so bad being second, but at the same time, I think they would want to add a couple players right during this transfer window, and I know there's speculation that they may or may not add a couple players. What are your thoughts? And let's say if you were LAFC, where would you want to add a player or player or two for LAFC?
Yeah, I think, Steve Cherundolo spoke about he wants to add a little bit of fresh blood, but that he thinks, overall it's a pretty good squad and that there doesn't need to be too much change. And I think, that tells us what we're going to see in this transfer window. Maybe a couple changes, maybe a signing that shocks some people, but it could be an underwhelming transfer window from a lot of people's perspective, because I know a lot of people want that big number 9 DP coming in, right? Whether it be a young DP or you open up the full DP slot, you find that number 9 that can score you goals, because right now LAC have been way too reliant on Denny Bouanga, and he hasn't been in form since the Champions League final, right? And that's why LAFC have been in a downturn in form. So you need somebody else to score goals. Whether LAFC go and spend big money on that, we'll have to wait and see. I think you probably want to add a midfielder. I would say a center back as well, but you're going to have Mamadou Fall coming back, so you don't really, that is the addition. And then, yeah, I think in the midfield is where it's been lacking recently. For the first time since I think the Champions League final, LAFC will now have their full complement of midfielders for the Rose Bowl, with Acosta and Tillman returning, and Cifuentes did miss the last game, but only for loading issues, according to Cherundolo. So I think, finally LAFC getting a bit back healthy, but you want to find somebody to score you some goals, and probably somebody in that midfield to calm things down a little bit.
Yeah, no, excuse me. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that the midfield is it seems has been so strong with in the midfield, but you saw how like the injuries and not having a full healthy Tillman or Costa, what that did for this club, right? Because that's like the centerpiece of this club is that midfield, how strong it is. Yeah, you could have certain players that go in and out of the lineup, but if you can't control that midfield, which we saw in Leon, this team gets dismantled, and that's the tricky part about this club. And I think also, right, the thing about LAFC, I think what probably upsets fans with this transfer window, right, when you have a summer that you did last year, right, in 2022, you brought in Gareth Bale. You brought in Giorgio Chiellini. I kind of almost wonder if that kind of set the expectations for certain fans, right? Oh, we were able to get these players. We were able to get these big star players. We should get this player next, right? This summer. And I just don't see that for LAFC this summer. Not because they can't attract those players. It just doesn't get. I don't get that sense. We could completely be shocked and they get a big number 9, but that's not the sense that we're sensing. I'm getting that they're going to be get this big star number 9. It could happen, but I don't really see that. I could see more of a younger player coming in. Right? They've gone with Stipe Buke, right? They've gone with Bogus. They've gone these young European international players, and I think if they were to get a number 9, I think you potentially would get another one similar to that. And I don't know if you're going to get another big superstar type player like you did last summer. I just don't foresee that for LAFC this summer. And I think some of those expectations for their fans is what I think, I guess, a little underwhelming. But I think, look, when you have a club like LAFC, you should have that as a fan. You should have those expectations, right? You should have those like, hey, we are the best club. We deserve these type of players. But also think I also see the big picture for LAFC. Maybe they don't need to do that. Look, if a big star player comes from a TAM deal or something like that, obviously they're going to pull the trigger. But I don't really see LAC wanting to spend DP money on a big superstar number 9. I don't really get the sense for that. I think if they get a creative, lucrative deal like they did with Gareth Bell, then that's more in line with what they want to do. But I think overall with this team having there's certain issues right now recently. I don't think they're that far off. I think if you can get the midfield players healthy going into the MLS Cup, and you can get your center back position pretty healthy, right? We'll have to see with Aaron Long. We'll have to see, with Chiellini, obviously, because now we know he's not giving you 90 minutes. And we got to see that depth, because the transfer window, I think, ends in August or something like that. I think those are the key pieces. Obviously, yeah, you want to be able to score and all that, but I think the scoring will come when you can control more of the midfield. You can control the game a little bit more. Yeah, and I think it's a little bit. It is really tough just to depend on Danny Bouanga to score for you, and I could see that. But look, whenever you see Chicho come back to the MLS and he goes to RSL, I think that's also I think a frustrating thing for fans, because he was so loved. He was a great person to talk to as one of the media members. He was also very easy to talk to, and I think when you see a player come back to the league and go to another team, that hurts. That definitely hurts.
No, it absolutely does, and I think with Jose Cifuentes rumored to be going out, that leaves your midfield even more weak, and you need to find some replacements there. I think as well, the world market has changed when you compare it to last season, especially when it comes to players that MLS would be targeting. That the Saudi league has now come and just paid way more money than MLS ever could, and so they're going there. For example, a player like Roberto Firmino, I think, would have been perfect for LAFC. I think that would have been the ideal signing in this transfer window at a number 9 position, DP signing, top tier as you can get. But St. Louis were interested, LAFC were interested, but it takes, when Saudi pays so much money for Firmino, he's going to go there, right? And so it's not that MLS is necessarily competing with Saudi, because MLS is still a better league. It's just that the money and the type of players that both leagues would be going after are somewhat similar in certain cases. And so I think that that does change the world market just slightly, because then it goes to players like you were talking about, Gio, where it's okay, maybe they just want to come to LA and you get them on a TAM deal or something like that, rather than a money thing, because if it's a money thing, they're going to Saudi.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I think also too, with that being said, you bring up a great point. With the LAFC, I don't, they're not going to get it. You can never get it into a bidding war with Saudi, right? Because they just have unlimited money. It just seems like they have infinity money, right? So that's just one of the things that they're going to have to deal with. But look, at the same time, if a player wants to get played, go get paid. You know what I'm saying? But if a player really wants to come to LA, really wants to come to MLS, LAFC will find a way to do it. Justin, let's switch the page over. Let's talk about LA Galaxy. We started the pod with Chicharito being out. Obviously, he's it doesn't look like he'll be coming back with the Galaxy. This is his final year with the contract. Their DPS have not been that good. I would say more so Douglas Costa. Chicharito's been out with injury. Galaxy are 13th place, one second from last. They've played 19 games. They've only won 3, drawn 7, and lost 9 games, and have 16 points. I think everybody expected a lot more from this club. I don't think we expected them to be second from the bottom. But what are your thoughts about this club and obviously the season they've had so far?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, it's as bad of a season thus far as Galaxy have ever had. Next, I believe what that 2007 season, I think it was. Um, so it's just a bad time for Galaxy, and they need to find solutions. And at least they've sacked Klein by now. At least things are the ball is starting to get rolling, I think. But you need players to perform on the pitch, and that means Ricky Puig, who is for some reason an all-star. That means Douglas Costa, who is starting to perform in the last few games. I think Douglas Costa is the only player to have 2 goal contributions in a single match this season for Galaxy. So that tells you just the lack of production coming from the team, right? It's one of those things where this could be a big kickstart for Galaxy in the rest of their season and trying to get the ball rolling. Not really, to compete this season because that's unlikely, but to get the ball rolling for next season and get things moving. Vanny, obviously, I know is a big talking point and what will happen there. I think what will happen there is dependent on whether he can get this ball rolling the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I think look, from the start of the year, I didn't with being pretty much handicapped with not being able to make any international moves with what happened with Klein, and then not obviously the whole things that happened with the fans. It was, to me, everything, it was a trickle down effect for this club and what they've been through. And I think it's they pretty much shot themselves in the foot. Well, Klein did with what's going on with this club, and it just limited what they could do. Right, they needed wings, and also Greg Vanny not being able to adapt uh, his formation and just different things with the players that they've had, and then you lose Chicharito, the heart and soul of that team. Yeah, you still got Ricky Puig. You have Douglas Costa now that is having, I guess, okay performances. He was below average. He's definitely not been worth his money even up to now.
Oh yeah.
I still feel like he's still robbing the club because you expected a lot more from him. But look, I think when you make poor signings like Douglas Costa, and unfortunately your DP like Chicharito goes down, it's very tough. It's very tough to see an outcome for this club. It's very tough for me to even see them, make a run for the playoffs. They're just so up and down. With everything, and it's just so weird because you expected a lot more, just so many things, and for whatever reason, even under Greg Vanny, they weren't able to figure it out. And then just so many, obviously the Gold Cup, Jalen Neal, now he's playing with the U.S. men's national team. He's one of their key pieces in their center back position. Is great for him, but unfortunate for the club, and just so things like that haven't really gone their way. And I think that's what we've kind of been saying the same thing for the last couple of years about the Galaxy, like. Their seasons are up and down, and I kind of wonder when they're gonna. Last year they finished the season strong because of the addition. They finished the second half of the season pretty strong, but since I've been covering this team, they've always been up and down. They've never really been as consistent towards the top, like LAFC, like the Sounders, and like those teams, right? That you're like, okay, these teams are always going to compete for something, and I wonder when that will happen because there's just so many things what they can do. And now with Klein being out, maybe next year is the year. No, I know. And, I think there's a lot of questions with Greg Vanny too. I don't recall how long his contract is, but look, I think you would have to definitely look at the possibility of potentially looking at a different coach for next season.
Yeah, I think it will depend absolutely on the rest of the season. If he can show any sort of improvement, because I think there's no point in sacking him right now. Like you might as well just let him finish out the season, and then make your decision at that point. Um, but it is one of those where now it's a different person making the decision, right? Whether that will be Will Kuntz or somebody else, I'm not 100% sure. But um, yeah, it's going to be decisions to be made. And you bring up a great point with Jalen Neal, I think, as well, because that has been the one bright spot for Galaxy this
Hmm.
season. But he's not going to be there at the Rose Bowl. He's off with the national team, and they didn't let him go to the U20s, but then he was injured a little bit anyway, so then he wasn't even playing. It was a whole mess with what was going on there. But Jalen Neal, yeah, the one bright spot at least you can look for Galaxy, because he is one for the future. I think he's incredibly talented, the definition of a ball-playing center back, exactly what you want for the future, and the future of the U.S. men's national team as well, because don't make no mistake about it, he is looking for that starting 2026 spot.
Yeah, no, he's very talented, lengthy, and has great ball control there in the center back position. All right, Justin, let's finish off with this. Give me your score predictions for tomorrow's game.
Oh man, I haven't even thought about that. Goals always come, so let's go 3-2 LAFC.
Okay. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking 3-2. Obviously
Yeah,
LAFC. Yeah, they
that was
these games are bad for keepers because there's at least like 4 or 5 goals this game, and I mean that's what you love to see in a Clasico.
yeah, no, it's averages almost 5 goals a game, almost 4.5 goals a game, I think, in this fixture. And yeah, it's one of those, the reverse fixture was 3-2 LAFC at DHSP. So it wouldn't be, that surprising, I guess. I guess it's not a reverse fixture technically. It's, Rose
Yeah.
Bowl. I think Galaxy are the home actually, but you get my point.
Yeah. Well, with that said, guys, we're gonna let you go. It's holiday weekend, a lot going on here. Quick pod today, but I appreciate you guys for being on. And if you're at the game tomorrow, definitely enjoy it because it's gonna be a historic night. So for Justin, this is Gio. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody.